Okay, great. Thank you very much for having me here. And I'd like to welcome our panelists today. Starting from the far end, it's Vijay Dewan, David Llorente is next to me, and Simon Lidzen in the center. Why don't you give a couple minutes to introduce yourself? My name is Alex Igelman, as the host mentioned, and I'm the CEO of Esports Entertainment Group. I've been involved in the online gaming industry for 31 years now. ChatGPT, to be honest, is one of the most exciting things I've seen since I logged on to Google after moving from Excite in the 90s. And if anyone here has not heard of it or used it, I think you should just, as soon as this panel's over, go home and Google it and actually use the service. It's an amazing natural language chatbot that is able to do things that really you would only dream of years ago, and that world is coming. Maybe I'll date myself. The HAL 2000 world, or someone else mentions, Tony Stark's, world. But at the end of the day, we're coming to that world, and these gentlemen next to me are all involved in the industry and have either implemented or are about to implement either ChatGPT or other natural language processing, AI, into their system. So having said all that, Vijay, why don't we start with you?
Sure, thanks. Thanks for having us. My name is Vijay Dewan. I'm the CEO of Pine Sports. We've been around for about 2 years, and our focus is really to build AI-powered tools for sports bettors to use to make informed decisions. We started out building data analytics and visualization tools that allowed people to look at player props. We then built a custom AI modeling tool where people could select from 200 different statistics and build their own AI models to predict winners against the spread, totals, things like that. And most recently, as you mentioned, we've implemented ChatGPT to allow people to actually generate research reports that dig into our stats based on a pick that they're interested in. So they say, I'm interested in Kevin Looney, maybe his player points. It will then, within a minute, you'll have a research report custom to use based on the pick that you're interested in researching more.
Cool. I'm Simon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fast Track. We've been around in the market for about 7 years, and we are...
And you're the platinum sponsors.
We are. And we have a CRM platform. Our vision is to sort of digitalize this industry, both casino and sportsbook. We work a lot with productivity aspects, which is making this topic super interesting, of course, and to deliver sort of a self-learning engagement platform. And our vision around that is quite comprehensive, so it's not just like a small piece of it, but be able to do that in its total entirely. And yeah, we've been, I had a presentation yesterday actually on this very topic and talking a little bit of how we have integrated this technology into Fast Track. And for us, it's a productivity play. It's super exciting. Our focus is very much about creating one-to-one experiences with players and how we have come up with some new and innovative ways of how people can build content libraries and then do matchmaking using AI modeling to deliver a truly unique experience for every player. So that's Fast Track, and that's me.
Thank you so much. And David, your company is not only involved in gaming, is that correct?
That's correct.
These are pure play. And why don't you tell a bit about Narrativa?
Yeah. So first, thank you for having me here. So I'm David Llorente. I'm the founder and CEO of Narrativa. To try to summarize what we do, we are the ChatGPT for gaming, in this case. Surprisingly, we started over 8 years ago, doing what, not the same way, but doing what GPT is doing now. 8 years ago, if I talk to you about content automation, you will say, yes, right. This is what happened 8 years ago. First code, ChatGPT came, and everybody opened their eyes and they understood that this is possible. But we have been 8 years doing this for gaming, for media. Just a note, we do automate around 2 million news articles a month for Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, but then we work also for several gaming companies, operators, and affiliates. One of our main focuses is pharma industry, where we do use our AI to automate parts of the clinical study reports to be sent to the FDA.
Interesting. Thank you. And so maybe I'll start with you. Would you say that your specific application for gaming right now is to provide content? Is that right? Narrativa is providing content.
That's right.
Okay. Whereas in your case, Vijay, you're providing content, but you also have some sort of prediction analysis in there and some as well as the content. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so what would your business model be eventually?
So I think I think your model is really you're taking a lot of content and pushing it out. Ours is really we want a user to come on and be able to generate content that is specific to them, that interests them. So rather than having to Google for a specific player or a specific game or something that they're interested in, because as you know now, there's thousands of bets available each night, they can actually ask a question and get a full report. So it's sort of flipping this on its head, where you're pushing out lots of different content. We're actually allowing users to generate content that's very, very hyper-focused.
Got it. And Simon, your application, you're actually using ChatGPT within it to augment what you already have. And maybe you can explain that and how that productivity, how you can increase productivity in a corporation.
Yeah, I mean, so from Fast Track's perspective, the introduction of ChatGPT and integration of OpenAI and the models and engines that they're using, it's not ChatGPT in itself, right? But is more of a productivity play within the platform. Like, the platform in itself has all of these AI capabilities that we have the IP over, in terms of how that matchmaking is happening and all of those exciting stuff. Now, what makes this super exciting for the operators that are working with Fast Track is the fact that now when you're building up all of these vast amount of content to fill up your content banks, or when you're creating campaigns for your players, and when you want to do variations on that, and when you want to come up with your emails, your push notifications, and your SMSs, is that this provides you with like sort of an unlimited pool of resource to write this so quickly, right? You can have an idea in the morning, you can go in the platform in like about 30 seconds to 1 minute, you could have had a whole campaign that is ready to go out to your players, right? I mean, you would still have a producer hat, which is maybe reviewing what you're looking at and so on. But the same goes for the translations, right? If you want to run that in 5 different markets and you have, different regulatory aspects for different translations, then you're able to do that as well, and it's just generating all of that content for you. Now, we have also put a lot of effort into the architecture around this technology, so that when you are spotting things that you're not happy with in the generation that is coming back, essentially whatever content that you're getting from OpenAI in this particular case, we are going to integrate a lot of others as well. But you can essentially tune it, so you can say, and it will have that memory, right? So when you're talking about, you're talking about my brand in the wrong way. I wanted to talk about it like this. In those particular contexts, if it's in particular emails, email templates, if it's in specific markets or on specific parts of the website, it will understand. So the more you're using it, the better it's getting. So that's really cool. So I mean, we jumped on that straight away. I think it's super exciting in how this is now just eliminating a lot of like sort of dead process that was put in place in order to create content. Like, if you travel through that in an organization, there's just so many people and so many things that are happening that disappears now. You can just bypass it. You can go straight from idea to sort of delivery, right? You can do that through one individual with one idea. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's really one of the most exciting things about this, is that when people realize how many steps and how many actual, head count you can reduce, and I'm not encouraging everyone to fire everyone next door and replace it with a chatbot, but there is a lot of opportunity to, say, streamline an organization. Having said that, David, we watched the news, and recently in the U.S. news, there's a lot of errors still coming out from OpenAI, and so what are you doing to, you're supplying this content to your clients, what are they doing? Are they having to vet it once again, with a human interaction to ensure that, they didn't say something that it makes no sense?
Yeah, so our approach from the beginning has been a bit different, because basically ChatGPT or GPT-3, GPT 3.5, they are basically language models. So they are not knowledge models. Yeah. So they are good at writing, but they are very bad at explaining things from data, for example. Yeah. So our approach has been different, where we combine a lot of engineering and language models, meaning like we are letting the models to write certain parts of the text that are basically, for example, think about casino game descriptions. When you talk about the introduction of the games, the text is always funny, right? It's like a bit fluffy. Yeah. That's fine if a language models write it, but then when you have to write about RTP, volatility, all this, you make sure that you use engineering. And so the short answer is, out of the 2 million articles that we publish, we create every month, 0 of them are reviewed by humans.
Wow.
So everything is automatically generated, pushed through the API to the customers, and published. Our content works really well for acquisition. It's a long-term strategy, of course, because SEO, for example, it takes time. But the idea is, and actually this idea came from like around 10 years ago. I was managing a brand in Europe, and everybody was creating content all the time, from banners to terms and conditions and so on. So I came up with this idea, and I started the company. So the idea is to, and we found a way to automatically generate vast amounts of content for specific niche, to be able to, for the operators and affiliates, to really gain this traffic, these players, without having to have hundreds of freelancers and all the workflow and headache that comes.
Amazing. We got about just over 5 minutes, so Vijay, question for you.
Sure.
In terms of your target audience, again, it's going to be the user. How do you see them? I mean, aside from the the ChatGPT functionality, what other sort of benefits are they getting from your particular app in terms of handicapping?
Sure. So we have a bunch of different data science and AI models. The way I think about it is when I really dug into Python, which is a language I learned a couple of years ago, the applications there were astounding. You can, with a few lines of code, build a neural network that, back when I was in college, took me an entire semester and didn't work. With a few lines of code, you can have these really cool data visualizations. It's just so much more powerful than what your average person has access to, and it blew my mind that Tableau is doing a little bit of that sort of thing, but I just saw sports data as very clean, structured data, and it was a nice entryway to give people access to these types of tools to really have a data-first experience when they think about sports betting. And just wanted to take a step back on GPT-3, because I think the issue about mistakes and all is interesting. And maybe a lot of people here don't know exactly what GPT-3 is.
Sure.
So we talk about it being a language model. What it really is it's a gigantic neural network that's 150 billion nodes. It was trained on 600 billion words of content, which is like 4 million books, the equivalent of. So it's read all of that, and it creates what are called embeddings, which are vectors that are just numbers. And through that, it really understands like context and meaning, which is like pretty astounding. Yeah. So some Google scientists went in and started doing math with the vectors, and they saw if you took the word king and vectorized it, and then subtracted man and added woman, you got the vector for queen. So it's really understanding context in a way that we never quite understood before. But there are really 4 major limitations, especially in this space. The first is it costs a ton of money to train. So GPT-3 cost about $20 million to train. So it only knows about things that are from September 2021 and prior to that. The max total input and output window you can give it is about 4,000 words. So you know, you can give it 2,000, get back 2,000. So you can kind of tell it about the present, but you have a limited window to do that. So that's another difficulty that you have to overcome. The third is it's terrible at math. So that's usually where it gets things wrong. And that's kind of goes to the fourth, which is the larger. It kind of hallucinates. It confidently lies because it's trained off the internet, and generally that's what people do on the internet. So you have to be very careful about fact-checking it. Yeah. But once you understand those 4 limitations, there's so much you can do with it. I was talking to a friend of mine who owns a consumer brand company, and I said, what if I could scrape Twitter, give it to GPT-3 for your brand, and then it would basically summarize all the tweets, and you would have an email every morning that summarized what how people are perceiving your brand. And if there's something, maybe you do it every 10 minutes, and if something's like hypercritical, it could then email the leadership team saying, this is a real negative thing. So these are things you can automate using GPT-3 that I think were not possible just a few months ago, which makes it really cool, and again, goes to productivity.
Can I jump on,
sure.
on something that you started talking about, because you spoke about Python, all right? Yeah. And I think that
we got 2 minutes. I'm starting.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that many minutes. It's fine. But we had a couple of guys in the team, and they were like sort of playing around with ChatGPT, and they have always been curious about tech, and this is where I think is like super exciting as well, right? You have someone who's curious about something, any subject, but in this particular tech, it was about coding, right? And they're sitting there, and they wanted, actually at the time, we were working with ClickUp, as we're using as ClickUp as an organization, and we wanted to extract data from another application through an API and actually move that into ClickUp. It's no problem for my developers to do that, because they know how to do that, right? They do that every day. But this was a partner manager in my team who went on ChatGPT and managed to write a decent piece of code, right? They did that, and they managed to get that online. Amazing. And I mean, this is like sort of where we're touching a completely different spectra of what this technology are able to help us overcome, right? It's not necessarily that everyone is going to become coders through this, but you can overcome, like, it's probably going to showcase how that there's going to change a lot, like how we work with these type of things in the future, right?
Absolutely.
So
I just want to say one thing. First of all, last night there was a South Park episode. It's about ChatGPT, so we couldn't be more current than this topic right now. And I haven't seen it, but I heard it's really funny. I saw the opener. We have about 40 seconds left. 10 seconds. Is ChatGPT or AI or ML going to change gaming, yes or no, in the future tremendously or a little bit?
It's going to change the way we do things, and it's going to open up a lot of new opportunities. And the use is clear.
It's going to change organizations forever. I'm 100% positive that we're going to configure our org charts completely different in the future, because we will have access to a new breed of technology that will eliminate a lot of process and workflows.
Vijay, last word.
I completely agree. I think it'll change everything, and I think there are going to be companies that use AI across the spectrum, gaming, elsewhere, and companies that don't. The ones that don't are just going to
Perfect, and right on time. Thank you so much, and thank you all for having us.